trying to figure out and move your way through building new relationships, building relationships with the team, building relationships with the children, wanting them to trust me, but knowing that they have no reason to.
You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 70, The Unintentional Pedestal, featuring Shakiyla Solomon. Find the Good News is produced by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. See what else we do at parkerbrandup.com. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Find the Good News. In this episode, I share my conversation with Shakiyla Solomon, a Calcasieu Parish teacher that has served as an educator in a Nigerian community for over a year. It's an eye-opening and reflective conversation that I think you'll enjoy. On February 11th, a day has been set aside to remember the legacy of local musician and friend, Brian Moore. Brian passed away last year on February 6th, and this past Christmas, several of Brian's dearest friends came together for an evening of reflection. It's an honest and raw conversation filled with authentic love for the man. This February 11th, on Brian Moore's Day, I hope you'll set some time aside to share in this gathering of brothers. That's all the announcements I have for this episode. It's time to get in your best headspace, allow your mind to brighten and your senses to heighten. Latch on to the dream stream for a ride to a faraway land because you've pressed play on a little good news. One of the most gratitude-producing activities I think one can participate in is meditating on the origins of things. When you look closely at any good thing in your life and trek backward, beautiful worlds of intersecting experiences and chance circumstances begin to unfold. A bigger picture is revealed, and new light shines on individuals, revealing value that may not have been fully appreciated at the time. Reflecting on this blessing in my life, this podcast I call Find the Good News, it was clear that its origins flowed from many places, like little streams connecting into this one river of conversation. One of those streams formed during a video interview I conducted many years ago with a local educator named Shakiyla Solomon. I interviewed many of the best and brightest teachers in our region for that project, but there was a special light about Shakiyla. She spoke with uncalculated care, in a manner and tone that made every word seem important. While she was talking specifically about education, there was an undercurrent of wisdom that seemed to carry her words along effortlessly. In the full scope of that mini documentary, only a fraction of what Shakiyla and I talked about made the final cut. Reflecting on that project put the idea in my head that perhaps there was a way to capture more of these beautiful conversations in the long form. If you listen to this podcast, then you can draw the connections from there. A lot has changed for Shakiyla since we visited at Washington Marion High School. She has since answered the call to serve as an educator in a Christian village in Nigeria. At the time of our conversation, she had been working there for 1 year. In speaking with Shakiyla, it was very clear to me that her time in Nigeria has expanded her comforting presence, deepened her gratitude, and strengthened her faith. It has shown her that one who chooses to teach can do so in ways that reach beyond the classroom walls, radiating out to others through small, everyday actions. Teaching can be shared through a kindness shown, or even in the ways one teaches others how to value themselves just as they were created. In Nigeria, Shakiyla is gaining a new perspective, revealing a communal way of living that I am sure will continue to shape her as she moves on to the next stage of her journey. She has been a part of my journey too. Now, she can be a part of yours. This is my conversation with Shakiyla Solomon.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going. 'Cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news, Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
I honestly record everything.
Okay.
Like right now, we're recording.
Okay.
We just start like this. I've listened to so many shows where it's so formal, and I didn't want that at all. I wanted something that was just, well, honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I'm just going to jump right in. So,
okay.
You know, you probably remember when I came and interviewed you
Yes.
for that Big Calcasieu Parish video. And what I found over the years was that was really where my strength was. Not the videoing part, but it was being behind the camera and talking
Conversation.
to people. And you never hear me. You always just hear the reply from the person, and then we would edit it all together. And I've had, in the last few years, I would have these really intimate conversations with the people I was filming. And I knew that like 90% of what we talked about probably wouldn't be in the video.
Yes.
But the connection was still real, right?
Yes.
And so I told my wife, I said, that's where my joy is, really and truly, is not the editing, but it's in those conversations that are just stuck on these hard drives that never see the light of day. So we said, well, what if we just took that element alone and just said, hey, let's make a podcast about that. And let's just make it intimate and real. And now we can catch those conversations that are not showing.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's kind of where this was born from, part of it. And then the other thing was, I guess, a mission. And it was that there's so much negativity in the world, and those voices are so loud. And social media is just run over with it. We thought, well, what if we created a signal that was just about good people that are affecting lives and doing good works in the world? So putting those two things together, and that was kind of where this was born from.
Yeah.
Celebrating people that maybe aren't, being celebrated, right? So anyway, it was interesting because my first guest was Mickey Smith. And I see your smile.
He was my band teacher.
Well, that's funny because I brought you up in that conversation in my first episode, and I had told him about that video project, and he kind of paused because what I told him was this. I said, I interviewed a bunch of teachers, and everybody was picked specifically for who they were. It was like, cherry picking these great voices. But when you get back to editing and you're going, well, I don't know how I'm going to put all this together, you're looking for, I'd call it the spine of the whole thing. And I'm not trying to stroke your ego, but this is the honest to God truth. I was just sitting there editing that, and every time I would get to what you would say, because I asked everybody the same questions, but when I would get to what you would say, it was so like coming through for me. And I would sit there and I could feel my heart like unlock, and my eyes would, I'm a crier, and I would start to fill up with my water, and I knew that if you go watch that video, everything you say is the hub of where I built the whole video from. Okay. And I was telling Mickey that because we were talking about education, and he got a little bit reflective, maybe a little emotional too. And he said, and I didn't know that you had moved. I didn't know any of that because I was just talking about it like, oh, she's still here. Okay. And he said, I know Shakiyla. And you could just see like this look, and he was like, yeah, he said, we gotta figure out how we're gonna keep those kind of teachers for these kids, And I was like, what do you mean by that? And then I realized you were in Nigeria, right? Yeah. So I went and looked you up and kind of tried to connect with you online. And I was like, she may not even remember me. But I just started following what was going on. And I was just sort of fascinated and had 1,000 questions. So obviously that video was done a long time ago, and I guess that's a good place to kind of launch right in. Like, so compared to that day, what school was
I was at Washington
Marion. So obviously all of that stuff that was reaching into my heart, that was affecting me, was so authentic and true, and has motivated you to take your life in a whole new direction, but yet sort of blossom with that, still those philosophies that you had a passion for children. So if you don't mind, can we just like leap off right there, and you kind of tell me what happened, sort of your journey to education, and and then sort of what led you to make that decision?
My journey to education. So when I first started school, I was at McNeese.
Okay.
And my first major was pre-veterinary medicine.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't education. No.
Because I just knew I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I didn't want to be a veterinarian. I just admired the men that I worked for, because in high school I worked at Southwest Louisiana Veterinary Clinic.
Oh.
And so I loved it. And when I got into the study of it, the research, the background, I didn't love it. You know, I loved my job. I loved being there. I loved the relationship building, and I loved teaching the people in the rooms about what was going on with their animals.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I kind of figured out that it was the education of that position that I loved, and not necessarily the position itself, that I decided, okay, let's do something different.
Interesting. So you were aware that it was the education component.
And it took me a while. Yeah. So once I realized that, I did animal science and agricultural education. So I was like, okay, we can still do animal science, and I'll go to be an ag teacher. So in that, we have to do observations, and I was observing ag teachers in the community and their relationships, and they really had a passion for their animals, and I just didn't. Not for large animal like horses and cattle, bulls and things like that. Again, loved the work,
right,
but the way those children loved their animals, I couldn't relate. And I talked to one of my former teachers, Lori Benoit. She works at Barb right now.
Okay.
And she'd always told me, you know, go into English. You should be an English teacher. And I just thought it was so funny.
Because you'd never, I'm assuming you'd never even considered that, right?
No.
Okay.
But I talked to my advisor at McNeese, and I was like, I think I want to change my major to education, concentrating in English. And she was like, from animal science? And I was like, yeah. She was like, okay. And I loved it. I loved the observations. I loved the lesson planning. I loved trying to prepare the knowledge I wanted to transfer, but focusing on relationship building in the process. I just loved everything about it. And that was it. I was stuck.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out of it.
So honestly, I mean, it sounds like to me, it could have been any subject, maybe,
definitely,
right? It was just that dynamic of engaging with the youth. Yeah.
And since then, so I got my bachelor's degree in English and foreign languages at McNeese. And when I was teaching at Washington Marion, I ended up teaching 10th and 12th grade English, speech. I taught speech. I taught a creative writing class, and like ACT prep.
Okay.
And just really different types of courses. And this was all at the same time. I taught all of these at the same time.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so I still loved it. I loved trying to find different ways to engage the students and have them enjoy what they're doing, but still feel like individual people in the classroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's just an education thing. Like, I just love the concept of transferring knowledge. And so my last year at Washington Marion, I decided to study to get my master's in ESL because I wanted to travel and do the same thing, teaching English.
Okay.
I didn't know where I was going to go.
You didn't?
No? Had no idea.
Wow.
And so my last year there, I was still teaching, but I was getting my master's in teaching ESL. And so I finished, and like 6 months later, I applied at the position in Nigeria.
Wow. So okay, just help me lay this out. So how long had you been teaching before you accepted that position?
4 years.
4 years. So that's rather quick. I mean,
it was fast.
That's a fast track.
It was fast.
You make a big shift in your education. You 180 in a whole new path, and then that's interesting.
And I started teaching. I was young, you know.
Well, how old are you?
Right now, I'm 28.
You're 28 years old. That's
young.
A lot of. Wow. What an incredible, that's an incredible thing, I think. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess to me, I know this, maybe it's just maybe something natural about you, but like when I was talking to you at doing that video, what you were transferring and just the clarity with which you were doing it, it just felt like you'd been teaching a long time. And I don't mean that like, as an old teacher. It felt like you had, I don't know, been teaching your whole life.
That's
Isn't that
encouraging.
Interesting? I don't know. It just shocks me. That's how short a time period it's been.
One of my professors, Mimi Wallace at McNeese, because I wasn't going to graduate, I didn't finish my, I didn't finish my student teaching.
Okay.
I still needed some more time doing student teaching. So in 2017, I got diagnosed with type 2B cervical cancer.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, okay.
And so
man.
But before then, I'd always had problems. I didn't know what was going on. I was always sick. And so that year at McNeese, I was just always sick. And I wasn't really sure what was going on. So I missed a lot of time in class. And Dr. Wallace was just like, Shakiyla, you need to get this done. And I was like, I can't do this. I will pick up another semester and finish next semester. I can't do this. And she was like, that is not an option. You have to get this done. You need to be in somebody's classroom like yesterday. And
interesting.
I sat in her office. Oh my goodness. I just cried and she just let me cry. And she was like, get it out. Okay, now let's go. And I went and I did my student teaching at Barb.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And then I finished and I graduated and I got the job at Washington Marion during the summer before the school year started.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So how long after you start teaching full-time at Washington Marion do you just go, oh wow, this feels like home. This role I have now as an educator is what I'm supposed to do?
I think it was around my second year.
Really?
Yes, because it was challenging. Like I said, I was young. So when I was teaching at Washington Marion, I just turned 22.
Wow.
And I was teaching grade 12. So there were students in class who I was only maybe 2 or 3 years older than, because they were 19, 18, and 19.
Yeah, right. That's not a big gap.
And so building a rapport of respect and understanding was challenging. You know, the maternity that I have, it was hard to express because they were so close in age to me. So they definitely didn't see me as a mother figure.
Right.
And they saw me as a joke. You know, I was just like a young teacher coming in.
Take advantage of and kind of just ride the year. Yeah, okay, I got you.
And so I was really transparent with them from the beginning. And I love my class of 2016. They did become my babies, you know, because we grew up together in the classroom.
Sure, you cut your teeth on them. Yeah, that's interesting.
And they were learning things about themselves and their interaction with me in the classroom, and it was just a beautiful way to start an education.
It is. It sounds beautiful, and so you learn a lot in that first year, and then you just get to where you're hunting. It just seemed like you had a natural rapport that day I went in to film. One of the things I noticed, because I'd filmed at other schools and other classrooms, and I mean, of course, I'm kind of observant because a lot of my life is looking through a lens, you know, and people watching and details and faces, and I'm just kind of attuned to that thing. And so in your classroom that day, I did pick up on this sort of, I don't know, just natural, comfortable rapport that you seem to have with the kids. And I thought, man, I guess it had that air about it that you have these long-standing relationships with them. But now hearing this, it just seems like you just have that ability to build that very quickly with people. Or is it that way with everybody with you? Not just the kids, but have you just always had that?
No, I think I do have that rapport. Because I'm intentional. You know, I will hound you. to serve you and to love you and to learn how you need to be loved, and to see how we can serve together, and just to understand your heart, the heart of a person, Yeah. And so I feel like it is that way with everybody I meet. It just happens that way.
Yeah.
That, like I said, I hound them.
Yeah.
And some people don't like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of get a gauge of maybe I do need to back off and just kind of leave them. And I learned that with my students. I learned that in the classroom. When they're ready, they'll come.
Yeah.
And if they never come, you go, because they need that pursuance. And so I think that may just be a part of my character.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but you've got something. I mean, I've come, it's true. And I don't know how to really express this properly, but me and my wife privately have these conversations a lot. I've always, it's going to sound maybe hokey to some people, but it's like almost the taste of someone's energy, if it makes any sense.
No,
and I sometimes when I describe things to her, I use, like, actually, there's some people I've told her, it's like they feel like the way it tastes when you stick your tongue on a battery.
No.
But people feel different. Like, and there's this natural, I don't know, bubble of just comfort. Like there's a space there that disarms you. Right? If it makes any sense.
No, it does.
And that's kind of what I felt like when I was around you in your classroom and speaking with you. It was just like, even though I was over here and you were over there, it was like when you would talk, your passion just sort of would come off of you, and then everything you were saying just had like a weight to it, but not a bad weight, like a good, powerful, comfortable, healing sort of weight. So anyway, I don't know. That's why I was asking if it's always been that way for you, because it just seems like that's your nature.
I don't know. It's not always intentional, so I'm not sure.
Well, okay. So that kind of makes me beg to ask the question.
But like you said about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please. That's it's fine.
In my classroom, in my home, and even now in Nigeria, my goal is always, I want whoever walks into this space to feel safe to be themselves. Not because I'm going to praise them as they are, but because before I can encourage, edify, anything, I need to see who you really are. And so I think that's just kind of been the root of it all, starting in the classroom, is that my students could come in and be themselves.
Yeah.
But if who they were not bettering the kingdom or the people around them, I held them accountable to it. But that did not make them any less comfortable showing me their raw, true selves.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, I try to create that kind of atmosphere when I'm around people, that they don't have to pretend or anything.
That's something I think about a lot too. I kind of have a similar goal. I've come to believe that the biggest poverty in the world is not, I mean, there are real poverties like hunger, and shelter and all the basic things. But I think the real poverty is people being seen. I think some people just want to be seen and they're not seen. And I don't mean just seen like, hey, I'm over here, my name's Oran, I exist.
Yeah.
But I mean like seen through whatever this is.
Yep.
All these little accumulated elements that have made me, somewhere beyond all of that stuff, whether it's trauma or whether it's whatever the history of me is, somewhere beyond all of that, there's some me that's not all that.
Yeah.
And I want to share that part of me with other people. And I feel like deeply, whether people we admit it or not, or even know it or not, I think we're hungry. All of us are hungry to be acknowledged in that way. Like you said, I want people's heart, I want to show my heart and see their heart. I guess that's what I'm talking about,
sense.
There's just that part. Some people have that natural ability, it seems like you do, to connect with people there, or let them know that, you can let all this stuff sort of fall away. You don't have to do all this stuff. Let me just see you.
and having people who love that way around me, so I can do the same thing, so I can disarm, like you said, and then find and grow and change in the ways that I need to. So I'm, like I said, I welcome everybody. I'm really open with building relationships with everybody, but I'm not that good at reciprocity because I am guarded. And so when I have those few pockets of people who I can disarm with, they really help me to manifest into what it is I'm supposed to be, into the woman that I'm supposed to be. And so, but that takes a lot of vulnerability. And of course, I want people to feel that way with me. And
man, I get everything you're saying. I struggle with that.
It's so challenging.
I would rather be
the help.
I'd rather be who I should be. It's weird because my wife and I went to my son's Christmas thing at school today, and she knows, like, when I get around large crowds that I have to sort of back off because. And she can tell when I'm doing it. And I said, it's weird. I said, because I love connecting with people, but at the same time, when I'm around too many people,
it's overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, it's like too much coming in, and I just have to sort of create an island inside myself. And she's like, yeah, you can tell you're shelling up. I said, no, it's not because I don't want to be here. I do, but I can't do this way. It's just too much. And I told her, it's weird. The best way I can describe it is I just don't feel at home in myself right now when I'm in these situations. I said, but I'd rather that better part of me, just like you said, you surround yourself with people that allow that to come out more. I would rather that. I want more of that in the world because I'm more effective that way. I think I'm a better healer, a better listener when I'm in situations that are conducive to that. But at the same time, I struggle with, but that's not always what's out there. And so I have to be able to still be that, even though the situation or the people I'm around aren't conducive to it, because that's where the gift is needed, or whatever. I'm not mean that like a pound of that, but is needed the most. So it's a weird struggle, you know, because this is safe right here at this table, right? I mean, this is safe, but you get out and you never know what you're getting out there.
I saw you share something on Facebook the other day. I think it was you, an article on being an empath.
Oh yeah.
That was you?
Yeah, it was me.
And I read it and I was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
When you are empathetic by nature, when that's just a part of you, you pick that stuff up. You know, you just kind of start
into you.
I know. And it makes you want to just kind of curl up and back away. Because I get the same way. Before I left, I had my final fundraiser was at Lake Charles Toyota.
Okay.
And hundreds of people. You know, there were so many people there just surrounding me. Beautiful reflection of community, of the arts, different restaurants that come in and donated cards and things like that. But maybe 30 minutes into it, I was in the bathroom and my sister came in and she was like, Shakiyla Renee. I said, it's too much. And she was like, get out there. Like, they're here supporting and encouraging you. Get out there. And I was like, I just need a few minutes. And she was like, okay. So she closed the door and she stood outside the door and she didn't let anybody in. And I felt like I was just like releasing everything that I'd taken in from everybody in that room. And then I had to go back out and, you know, do it again. But
I get everything you're saying.
It's so exhausting.
It is
because we take it in.
God, that's so interesting. I don't talk to anybody else really ever about this.
Okay.
I mean, my wife, I talk to her, but I never, she's not that way. So she's like, okay, she's more fascinated by it. And it's good to have somebody to talk to, but it explains a lot of my behavior. And she even said, having come to this realization, she said, it explains so much about everything I know about you that I go, why these behaviors, why these things? Because it comes off to some people with me like I don't want to be around them.
Absolutely.
Or that I am not, or that I don't appreciate them. And I'm like, it's not even that at all.
It's so little about them.
It has nothing to do with them. It's all about this thing I don't know how to deal with sometimes. And man, it's interesting. I've done exactly what you're talking about in different versions of that, where I go, well, look, I can't. Okay, I've done this. I'm willing to be out front. I'm willing to go be out front and do the thing, and even be with the people. But I can once I've
only for so long.
I got to get away. For me, nature has helped, and even cemeteries. My wife, people probably would die to know how often I go to random cemeteries, because, and whenever my wife asks me, so why cemeteries? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason, I said, because there's nobody there. I can go to a cemetery and walk to the center, and it's like everything's leaving. It's like all, and nobody wants anything. And I just can go out there and pray and just sort of let it all out and just completely expand all of that. And it's sort of just taken away in the silence and the quiet of all these, graves. And I don't mean that in a morbid way. It makes sense. It's interesting.
It does. I mean, it does. One of my favorite things right now in Nigeria, when I start feeling that way, when I start feeling I don't know, I guess
charged, stimulated,
yes,
like it's
overstimulated. There are huge rocks, like almost like mountains, but not quite that high. You can climb them and things like that, and you get to the top, look down, it's not crazy high. And so I'll go to some, probably about 10 minutes from my compound. Nobody's ever out there. Maybe a few motorcyclists are there. And it's just like the horizon, the trees, the mountains. And I go and I bring my mat and I just sit. I'll do it for maybe 15, 20 minutes tops.
That's all it takes.
And then I can go back to the village and be fine. But I feel like I need that quiet, that release. Or I'm just out of my body. I'm out of it.
Yeah. God, so interesting. I totally get that. I seek places like that. I try to find these little hidey holes on these country roads. And, sometimes it's just a cow pasture that nobody's out there, and I can just go and watch the sun come up. And, and there's power lines still and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It's weird, but it's like I have these rings, I feel like, around myself. And I'm like, I need to get to where nobody's in these rings right now. Just me and the cycles of the earth. And just for a little bit, just to, I don't know. It's a recharge. It's almost like, I don't know. It feels like it's siphoning all that out. Like I told my wife that I feel like it's like an opportunity to sort of just expand a little bit and just be outside of yourself for just a moment. Healing. Well, that's interesting. I didn't expect we were going to talk about all that.
Me either.
And I'm happy, I know it. I'm helpless.
Sorry for interrupting the conversation, but I have something I need to tell you about. You may or may not know this, but this podcast is produced in the city of Sulphur, Louisiana, one of the sister cities that make up Southwest Louisiana. All of my childhood memories are wrapped up in the city of Sulphur. It's my home, and it's been a good home for most of my life. There is a growing diversity of unique businesses, services, and events in Sulphur, each with a rich and colorful story to tell about their particular place in this little jewel on the west side of the Calcasieu River. My mission is to promote good news, to put a positive signal out in the world. That's why my team at Parker Brand Creative Services has created the new brand, Sulphur Today. Here's how it works. Post your Sulphur event, service, photos, videos, or information using the hashtag #SulphurToday. That's it. My team and I will scan and curate those posts through the social media platforms we've put in place. Before you make your post, just type hashtag. That's a £sign for the folks that don't know what a hashtag is. And the words Sulphur Today with no space. My team at Parker Brand is monitoring this tag right now, and they're ready to create positive digital curb appeal for our city by sharing all the very best Sulphur has to offer through the Sulphur Today social media pages. As the Sulphur Today project grows, we will be scheduling interviews and video sessions with businesses, events, and services so they can tell their story of Sulphur Today in a series of ongoing micro-documentaries. Look for the eye-catching Sulphur Today sign when you're out and about. And be ready, we may be stopping by to visit you for a photo op. And don't forget to stop by the Parker Brand Creative Services studio in Sulphur to grab a Sulphur Today decal for your vehicle or business. We want people visiting our area to know that they can find all the wonderful things we have to offer with ease and be a part of our history by utilizing the Soul for Today pages or by searching the Soul for Today hashtag. Do you want to help us tell the story of Soul for Today? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit and like the Facebook page at facebook.com/sulfurtoday. And be sure to share positive sulfur information and post often using the hashtag #SulfurToday. Now, back to Find the Good News.
I love you just as well.
I want to kind of jump to Nigeria now, if that's okay, because that's where, I mean, for me, that was the big, like, whoa, she's not here anymore. Where's she at? And I'll go and look, and I'm like, what is going on? So she's, you know, a whole new part of the world, different life now, right? So what was that like? I mean, so was there fear? Was there anxiety? Or was it just like, okay, this feels like it, I'm doing this, and it felt 100% natural?
I wasn't really afraid.
Yeah?
The anxiety came from leaving my family and friends. Worrying about what relationships would and would not withstand that. Who would be able to handle that big move, and who would be able to adjust with the timing. If we talked every day, now we can't. You know, who would be able to push through that and we still maintain that bond? Yeah. That's what I was anxious about. Yeah. Because like I said before, my people are my people. My people are my they've seen me, all of me. And so there's just a sense of comfort there. And I was just afraid of you losing that and having to do it all over again.
Man, yeah, right.
And so that's where the fear was, not necessarily Nigeria or building a new life. I'm an assimilator. You know, it's not... I feel like I assimilate to new places and new environments. Okay. Yeah. Especially if there aren't a ton of people there. Yeah. But I can find my space in new spaces pretty easily. Yeah. So I wasn't really nervous about that move. But like I said, just leaving so much behind that I care so much about, you know.
Yeah. I can see that being pretty fearful. I mean, I've left and come back to Southwest Louisiana several times, but it's always people that I come back for. Yep. You know, there's people that you just love and that you want to be near, you know. Yep. Now, this is interesting because it kind of reminds me of something that I witnessed happen to somebody I know. They had somebody that was their friend, and when they sort of, I guess, you know, with friends, you don't talk sometimes for months, or your life changes and it's like, hey, I can't see every day like we used to, but the friendship really suffered. But those old friends that you've had for 20 years or whatever, and that you may not talk to all the time, when you get back together, it's like no time had passed. And those are the types of friendships that for me I valued the most, because those people, they do stand the test of wherever I go, however much time passes, whatever circumstances shift, we still love each other, and the friendship is very real. Those ones in my life that don't withstand that, I found that they are a little more shallow to some degree. Not the people, they're not shallow, but the relationship was shallow. It was circumstantial, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does. Yep.
Have you developed, now that you've been in Nigeria, have you developed these bonds over there now where you're going, oh, wow, now if I ever were to come back home, would I be having the exact same, like, questions again?
No, I have. And let me think about how to say this. I have some really solid friendships there, but very few, and it was very challenging. Really? Because I'm from the West, and I am in a pretty remote community.
Okay. Now, so for people listening, like, what do you mean by remote? Like, what is that?
It is out in the bush.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Like I think the most American thing I found is Pringles. You know, is out, and the city is huge, so you can kind of go into the city and, you know, drive a few hours and find more modern things. But
a few hours, that's a pretty good haul, though, to get to a city.
Yeah. And so out in our community, you know, it's just really not. It's not. Most of the people, not most, but a lot of the people who live around me, they use generators for light. They don't always have electricity. All of them get their water out of a well. You know, like it's not Western at all, which is fine.
Sure.
But it was hard to find things in common with people.
Well, you're coming from a culture with a whole different set of habits and access to
completely
things.
different. And just knowing people's intentions.
What do you mean?
Because of money.
Okay.
You know, I'm not rich.
I understand,
but I'm American.
Yeah, it's
and
a
so
perception.
There were a couple of times I've met people thinking that we were building relationships and getting closer, but it was just like, oh, you know, you can pay for this and pay for this, and we can go do this. And not that I'm naive, but I wanted to kind of just let that filter, let's filter all of that out. Let's get past all of that. Yes. And let's just build this friendship. And it just didn't happen with a few people.
Yeah.
But I think you just kind of learn from that. And the people that I do have there, I love them. And Shakiyla, did you see baby Shakiyla?
No.
Yes. My friend Sarah there, she named her daughter after me.
Come on. What a great honor that is.
Oh, it was beautiful. I couldn't stop crying.
Man, what a touching thing. That's really incredible.
She did. It's her youngest, her baby girl. And she named her after me. And so like little relationships like that, I'm like, this is enough, you know?
Yeah.
Her kids, they love me, I love them. They can come lay on the couch, you know? It's just it's natural, and it feels natural. And so I'm thankful for those kinds of relationships.
Yeah. You said something a second ago, and it's something, I don't know where I read it, but or many people say different versions of this actually, but it's that how little we actually need. We think we need so much, but how little we actually need. And so hearing you say that, you know, the community you're living in, you're still using well water, electricity is generator, but life is okay, right? I mean, everything's fine, and there's still love and still joy and community, right?
It's beautiful. It's just such a beautiful picture of community, you know. Sarah, that's her name, my friend that I was talking about. So Sarah lives in the compound with her husband and her sisters-in-law. So her husband's brothers and their wives, they all live in the same general area. Okay. And I was spending time with her one day, and she cooked and we ate, and she took like another pot and she dumped like half of the food in that pot, and then she brought it out to the center area in the compound, and all of the other wives were there, and they all just got like some of each other's pot, said thank you, and went home. And I was like, we just got another meal. She was like, yeah. I was like, what was that? And they do it every day.
And so it's an understood, like, every helping day. Each other out and sharing. Wow.
Every day they save enough of the food that they cook for their families to give to their extended families. They meet at the same time in the same place. Wow. Give each other a pot, take their pots, and you know.
How beautiful is that?
Oh, it was so beautiful to watch happen. I didn't know what was going on.
And now that's a normal part of life. Normal. It's not a part of a special holiday.
Yep. No.
That's really something. And see,
it's like every day's Thanksgiving. That. Oh, we are.
Like tragically.
We are. We are.
Yeah, we have a lot of walls up around us, and it's all about securing your own
individualism
security.
Is just a part of American culture, from what I can tell. But that sense of community there, I just fell in love with it immediately.
How could you not?
It's so beautiful to be a part of it.
I bet. I mean, you've said it twice, so you used the word compound. So can you explain a little more about why you're using that word and what that means? So I understand better.
No, it's fine. So we live in a village. Okay. A fairly large village by population, not necessarily
land. How many
people
are we talking about?
In the city I live in?
In the village that you're in, or wherever you're at? Is it...
Easily a couple million.
Oh, okay.
Like dense.
Okay.
Because Jos itself is a few million people just in that city. Okay. It's huge. Wow. So the compound is just a blocked off area. So we have a gate.
Okay.
Well, a fence. Our compound is fenced in. We have a gate at the front and guards.
Okay.
So that would be considered a compound.
I see.
And
Okay.
so Sarah and her husband's family, is it gated? It's not gated, but there's like a known line of demarcation. Like, this is our family area.
I see.
And
so it's a family compound?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And people, that's usually how they do it. So if I were a man and I had 5 brothers, me and my brothers would work, save the money, get the money to buy or build houses in the same general area. And that would be our family compound.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. I had no idea. I've been trying to picture like what your living situation was or where you live. So that's actually helpful. And so within the compound, so are you educating people that are just in the compound?
No. So you mean like in my job?
Yeah, like I don't really understand the dynamic of like what you're,
our compound is a compound turned school. So our students, our resident children there, have been living there since 2001, when there was a big crisis in Jos, and all of them lost their parents.
Really?
So all of them are orphans. And
how did they lose their parents? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The crisis. So it was a lot of church burnings, just random killings, kidnappings, those kinds of things were happening.
Horror and violence.
Oh yeah,
That's
definitely
horrible.
Happening in the area. And so at the time, Rafiki was accepting orphans. So a lot of people in the community would find them, the children, or get word about their situation, and then bring them to Rafiki just as a safe haven. And that's kind of how they got there. It's called the Rafiki Foundation.
Okay.
And so as years go, the children grow up and they need school. They need schooling. So the foundation established a school in the compound. Oh. So they got older. So the school got higher. It went from being just like a little pre-K to kindergarten up to grade 12. And as of late, they've opened the school up to the community, not just the resident children. So people from other compounds and other villages are bringing their kids to our school in our compound.
Wow.
And so, they're interacting with the resident children, and they're getting an idea of what to expect when they go out. And they've been going out now with extended family, brothers and aunties and grandparents of their parents.
That's so interesting. How long has this been going on? I mean, how long since the crisis, and then this compound is formed in the education?
I think the crisis was in 2001. Rafiki opened in 2004, so about 17 years.
Wow. That's a subject that kind of comes up on the show a lot. Maybe not a subject or an observation, that so often there are tragedies in the world, but good people are able to take that tragedy or the energy of that tragedy and completely redirect it, and something else blossoms out of it, which is that's the best way to face a tragedy. You don't want to create more tragedy. So often when in conflicts, we see that it's just more violence and just back and forth. Violence to violence to violence, and it's a chain reaction. It just travels through history. But to hear that was born out of that, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. And I think a lot of the different orphanages there were a result of that. So those children are now in the schools, and those orphanages have turned into schools, because in a lot of not just West African countries, but a lot of African countries, they're outlawing orphanages.
Why?
They feel like it is not effective in raising a child in a way that prepares them for life. Okay. It's too institutionalized, which in some degrees can be true. They don't have that sense of individuality. They don't have the sense of feeling like they have the parents that love them, as much as everybody in my cottage, and so they just completely outlawed it. And a lot of those orphanages were reestablished as schools, so they can still be provisionary for the children who were living there, if they weren't able to be adopted by anyone in the community.
So interesting. So for you, what's been the biggest What were the biggest differences and then the biggest changes that you've seen in yourself since you've been in Nigeria? Like big differences that were like almost culture shocks. I mean, you obviously are able to fit in, like you said, very well. You adapt very easily to new living situations or new environments and people. But was there anything that you just were like, wow, this is so different?
I really think the community.
Was that really? Okay.
Yes, it was. It was just so shocking to see, you know. Sarah fussed at me one day, not like really fussed at me.
Kind of just, what are you doing?
She wasn't happy because somebody at church one Sunday, because I go to church with them.
Okay.
Somebody at church one Sunday, I was holding baby Shakiyla, and she was like, "Is that your baby?" And I was like, "No, that's Sarah's daughter. I just love her like she is." You know, they laughed and walked away. And that next day, Sarah was like, "Why did you say that wasn't your baby?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, you're her mom. What do you mean, why did I say?" And she was like, "No, she's ours." You know, and she was so serious. She wasn't laughing. She was just like, if anybody ever asks you if that's your child, that is your baby. She was like, you're her mother just like I'm her mother, and she needs you like she needs me. And it was just so raw, you know. She meant what she was saying, and I've never heard that before, you know.
It's interesting.
I was like,
it is interesting.
And it just kind of, she meant it. I want you to be a mother to my daughter. When here, just from experience in the school system, women feel challenged by that. Like, no, that's my daughter. You can help such and such, but there are boundaries, you know. There were no boundaries there. She wanted me to be in the life of that baby and to be proud of it and to say it boldly to anybody who asked. And so things like that, and watching she and her sisters, you know, give each other meals. Like there was a day when a KK na Pep, that's the small taxis.
Okay.
They're like tricycles, essentially. One flipped over on the road. He was trying to do a U-turn, and it completely flipped. In like 3 seconds, Oran, there were like 15 people there
helping,
picking his things up, put him in the car, flipping the car back over. It took no time to get him out the street, and then all of those people walked away, you know. And I was just like I have that image in my head now. We were going around the corner. I vividly remember things like that because those are things that aren't common.
No, you're right. I mean, here, I will say, I mean, and I can only guess what's going through people's minds. I can tell you what's going through mine. When I see like a car broke down, or I mean, it's happened many times. Mm-hmm. My instinct is, hey, I'm gonna pull over, and I usually say, hey, I'm gonna be late for work, or I'm late because of this. But what you notice in those situations is how many people just go around because they're going, I just don't have time for that. Yeah. Because potentially wherever they're heading, they need to be there. They need to be there, and then whoever is in their authority or authority over them will say, well, you know, that's terrible that happened, but I've got an agenda, and you need to be here for my agenda. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of flows down that way in our culture. And I'm not saying that people don't help each other ever, but there's that sort of half in, half out. Yes. Versus what you just described. Yeah. Everyone just comes together.
There was no hesitation. And, you know, I hope it's not coming off that way. Now that you said that, it may come off that way.
Oh, no. I didn't take it that way.
Okay.
I just think it, you know, I sense it too.
Yeah, and we do have it here. There is community here. People love each other here. But what I saw there was like nothing I'd ever seen. It just was. Like situations like that, nobody was hesitant. Nobody was cautious. Nobody was checking their time. They just went, they helped, and they left, you know. It was just a really authentic sense of service to your neighbor. Yeah, they love their neighbors
instinctually, like culturally. It's just built in.
And so many different people, you know. It wasn't like all men ran up. It was men, women, a couple teenagers. Like, I was like, what is happening? I didn't know what they were about to do. Yeah. And they helped him. And then they just went on about their day. So I think the biggest difference is seeing that sense of community so clearly. Yeah. In the city. Right. And obviously there are terrible things that happen there, you know. Sure. I told you some of the crisis. It's not like it's a perfect place. But you're
not describing utopia, but you're describing I I don't know. You just, to me, I've had this conversation with a few different people, and we few of us have taken different perspectives. Like, some people think that human nature is inherently bad, and we have to try to be good, and some people think it's inherently good, and we do bad things, you know. And what you described right there to me is like, I actually do believe that we have a good nature. I believe that we want to be better. That person that's outside all these things that we maybe have grew up with, or that's stuck on the outside. And what you're describing to me is everybody's good nature just rose up together. Let's all go do this because it's the right thing to do. And then we step away. It's instinctual. It's not resisted. You know, there's this fear that permeates, I think. And again, I want to say for the record too that I do think there definitely people come together to help each other, but there is sort of a apprehension and fear driving a lot of what's going on in our country, and just even in small cities like this. And so there's a lot of I want to help, but you just never know. We might need to do a background check first. And, there's so many checks and balances before we can step in and just help somebody. And that's just fear. Unfortunately, fear for a lot of reasons. Yeah, it's unfortunate. So that's interesting. So that's a big difference. Well,
you asked me another question.
One was just that, and initially that cultural change, but the other thing was, how have you changed? Have you changed?
Yes, I have. I'm so... Okay, first of all, I'm patient. I didn't realize how impatient I was until I moved there. I'm so impatient.
Oh, you were impatient,
I was.
But now you're patient.
Yes, and so...
okay.
Because like you said in your example, is that people may not have done something that way as far as helping the guy who got like you flipped his car, because they don't have the time. Right. That's not a thing there. Like, I mean, time is obviously a thing there, but it is not nearly as important as it is in the West. So you will wait for everything.
Yeah, learn to get comfortable with waiting.
Everything. You rush to wait. That's what my boss says all the time.
Yeah, hurry up and wait. I used to say that in the Army when I was in the Army. And
that's exactly what you do. You hurry up to get to a certain place, because if there's no electricity, if there's no lights, then you have to wait for lights to come. But you need to go to this, this federal office or this government office and get this paperwork. But you have to wait for such and such to get there, because they may be running late for. So it just really taught me to be patient, and I think I'm more kind than I was. I wasn't like a terribly mean person, but I can be spicy sometimes.
We can all. I can too. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And my friend Ishaku, he's really helped me with focusing on that, not justifying it, but actively wanting to change it. Because I'm the queen of saying that's just how I am. That's how I respond to things like that. And so he's really held me accountable to no, you want to be better.
Wrestle with this.
Yes, things. Fight it. Yeah. Figure it out. Figure out why, what needs to happen, what needs to change. Taking baby steps.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize how much of a temper I had until I saw some of the things I saw, and my initial reaction was to get upset.
Sure. Yeah. No, I understand that. God, man, and I think he's right. It's pretty wise, because I have to wrestle. I've been doing that since I was young, and I've failed in many, many colossal ways. But I still have to wrestle with myself, because if I weren't wrestling with myself, the things that I don't wrestle with would really be damaging to me and people around me. And they come from just history. They come from things that you experience, and things in your brain, and you go, hey, I got to wrestle with this. I have to, because if I don't wrestle with it, that thing gets loose. And that's not a good thing in the world. It's tough. It's hard work. I do talk about that a lot with a lot of people. I say, I look around and I go, man, people aren't wrestling with themselves enough.
Nope. And I'm learning how to do that, especially if it's things that people can't see. My thoughts, my feelings about myself. I don't wrestle with them.
Can I stop right there?
Sure.
Your feelings about, if you're willing to share, like, what do you mean by your feelings about yourself?
I'm just really insecure.
Are you?
Yes, I'm really insecure. I'm insecure about my physical self. I'm insecure about whether or not I love people well enough, or whether or not I'm present enough. Sometimes I'm insecure about my work, my career. Am I doing what's best for this campus? Am I training the teachers well? Are we doing what we need to do? And so I get really negative toward myself, and I don't take praise or encouragement well. I get combative. And so all of that just kind of comes out, like you said. It goes out into the world, and it affects me and the people around me because I don't wrestle with it.
Do you, I mean, this is a weird question because you haven't said anything to indicate this, but do you fear your own ego?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be too confident because I don't want to be too confident.
I understand that. And everything you're saying, I'm relating to. And that's why I asked that question, because I actually fear mine. And not like it's weird because it's a sneaky devil.
I never really thought about it that way. The fear of my own ego. I never thought about it that way.
It's a
but
trick.
I think that's what it is.
The ego's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
It's like, and I talk about it, sometimes the way I talk about the ego is almost like it's a demon. Like, but that's almost the best way for me to handle it is because it's sneaky. A little bit of praise, and the ego can just take that little bit of praise and go berserk. And all of a sudden you think you're somebody, and you forget to do the work you need to do to be better. And because the ego's over there stroking you and you don't even know it. And it's like, oh, crud, I'm not doing the work. That's happened to me many times in my spiritual life where I went, oh, I had a little bit of spiritual insight. Oh, I had a little mystical experience. I had a lot of love build up. And yeah, I think I'm good. And then I stopped doing the practices, the things that are anchors for me. That's actually happened to me recently. And I went back. It's funny. I'll tell you exactly what it was. One of my favorite people to read is Thomas Merton. And so I did something for many years. I would read the Holy Hours, where it's like, the monks in the monasteries and people around the world read the Holy Hours, and they all read the same thing every day, Christians all over the world. And it was something special about that for me, like an anchor point. I was like, oh, I know that when I'm reading this at dawn, that there are other people
doing it
all over the world that are reading these same prayers, the Psalms, and the same ones at the same time. So that was a touch point. But to be honest with you, I got a little, I hate to even say it, but I'm being truthful. I got a little bored with it. I was like, oh, I've already read these Psalms 100 times. I mean, I'm reading them again. Well, I got my little bit of peace out of that. I don't need to do that anymore. And then the ego starts stroking you. Hey, I'm doing all right. I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing, whatever I'm called to do. All these little things you get. And then I stop reading them, and then a year passes, or a week passes, and then that's a month, and then it's a year. And about 2 months ago, I don't know what it was, but it was something again from Thomas Merton, who I really talk about all the time. And it just hit me one day when I was sitting out on a country road and just sitting there. I was like, Thomas Merton to me I've elevated him to sainthood, in my mind and heart. And I go, he never stopped reading the Holy Hours, though, even though his words just drip with insight and prophecy. I mean, he's touched. And he never stopped going back to his anchor. And I just got this really sort of weird feeling. I was like, and here I am thinking I got a little bit of insight, and I don't need to redo that anymore. But this man did that his whole life. He always went back to the basic thing. And I was like, I need to go back to this. And I added it back to my morning, my evening. And I was like, it was like refreshment. And I went, I've got to keep doing this. I can't just let my ego tell me I don't need this thing. Who am I to think I don't need that? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just kind of a weird segue, but I don't know. Yeah, I wondered about that, if you feared it, because I mean, it can stop you from growing.
And it does. Like you said, you stop doing the things that were pushing you in a direction or helping you to grow and change into whatever you're supposed to be. You know? But when you stop because you feel like you've done enough because of your ego, you stint that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how well received were you when you first arrived? I mean, as far as bringing you into the culture, I mean, because are there other people too? That's another question, that are also educators from other parts of the world.
They're not educators.
Oh, okay.
The rest of our team it's 4 of us.
Oh, okay.
From the States.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else there is local.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
all
wow.
of the other staff, all of everybody
That's
else.
interesting.
Yeah. They were really intentional about it not being American focused. So
yeah.
all of the teachers are Nigerian, the students, the staff, the trainees, everything.
But the other 4 are
American.
from... Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
That was the situation.
And they're older. So the couple is in their 60s,
Really?
I think. And my boss is in her mid-70s.
Wow.
And then me.
That's interesting. Okay, see, I guess I'm trying to paint a picture, and it's interesting. So you didn't like arrive, and there was sort of like this segue where it's like, okay, you're going to familiarize you, and then
no.
So you just boots on the ground, right out the plane.
And like trying to figure out and move your way through building new relationships, building relationships with the team, building relationships with the children. Wanting them to trust me, but knowing that they have no reason to. You know what I mean? I was just another face. And having grown up in an orphanage, they saw missionaries all their lives come in for maybe a year or so, and then they go back.
Oh.
So they can be really, really open or really guarded. They let it all out because they see the opportunity to be free again until whenever they leave, or they keep it all in because they don't want that. They don't want to have done that and then it be gone.
That's sort of relationships. You're just like, oh, I've opened up and now they're gone. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So there was really no middle ground with the children. Some of them are just now getting comfortable with me, and the other half of them have loved me since I got there. So it's just those dynamics were just different based on their experience.
Yeah. So have you experienced that because of that, where people, I guess the children have experienced this, people coming in their lives and leaving when you arrive and coming to their life, a lot like your first day, as a high school teacher, was there that like, oh, well, she may not be here a while.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. But with them, the exceptionality is that all of the missionaries who had served there were white American.
Oh.
So for most of those students, I was the first or maybe second Black American they'd ever seen. Yes. So I was like, I was interesting.
Yeah. I find that interesting.
I thought it was really interesting too. I was talking to my mentor today about it, and I was telling her that was really surprising to me.
Yeah.
They had this sense of beauty that they saw in Western civilization, that they saw in blonde hair and blue eyes. And I'm fairly confident, I'm not like boisterous or prideful, but I love my skin and I love my kinky hair, and I love myself. Until I don't. And so
but I know where you're going. Right. Yeah.
And so that was so new to them, or when I talk to them and I'll be like, oh my goodness, your skin is so beautiful. They'd be like, Auntie, stop. They just didn't believe it.
Wow.
And so that is where a lot of my relationships with the children started, is that learning how to love myself better while simultaneously trying to teach them how to love themselves held me accountable to loving myself more fully, because you can't fake that.
Yeah, man, this is interesting. I mean, hearing you say this stuff, so I guess it's things I just don't know, and I guess it comes from just living in the West. So these young people in Nigeria, from what I'm understanding, and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, don't see the value in their skin and the way they appear, because there's this perception that in the West that whiteness and blonde hair and blue eyes. How do they receive that information? That's fascinating. So how do they receive that impression?
I mean, the media, the same way we do.
Oh, okay,
commercials, advertisements,
product
TV.
advertisement, things like that. It's all still got that Americanized.
One of the things that's like
fascinating.
A bestseller there that I'm finding is skin bleach. Like, women spend
I
millions
saw a
of
documentary
naira
about this in India.
to bleach their skin.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that kids would tell me for a while when I first got there. Auntie, we love your skin. You're so fair. And I'm like, I'm not fair. But my brothers are much lighter than I am. So I guess I inadvertently compared my skin to theirs. But I was just like, I'm not. But compared to most of our kids, I am. And that's just a thing there. People spend, that is like $1 million industry there, is skin bleaching.
And is it just I've seen this thing in, again, and I hate to bring that up again, but in India, where in the film industry, they were saying that they will not get jobs if they're too dark, and they do this whole all these bleaching applications and medications and cream, just to get these roles, because they won't hire them if they're not. God.
Yes.
And so that exists in. Wow.
And I'm sure it's different. It's in different degrees in different places. I can only speak for what I saw in that, that city. And so, no, but it was prevalent. Like, the biggest bulletin boards, the biggest advertisements, from what I've seen, are for things like that. Straightening, hair straightening, relaxers, wigs, of straight, wavy hair. It's just common. So I could understand why the girls, specifically the girls, were struggling just to see beauty when they saw themselves. So when I got there, and this is not like a stroke my ego kind of thing, but like I said, I was one of the first, if not the first, Black Americans they'd ever seen. And my hair was natural, and I didn't bleach my skin. And even like wearing lighter makeup, that's something I saw a lot there. They get makeup like 3 or 4 shades lighter.
Really?
I didn't do that. And so the kids notice those things, and they'd be like, Auntie, why don't you? Oh. I'm like, well, because I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm just fine like this, So, but like I said, it held me accountable to believing what I was saying to them, like, are you really okay? Like, do you really love this, and that about you? And if not, don't say that, because now you're just being dishonest. And so it was really, there was reciprocity there. They held me accountable, not knowing that they were, and I was still able to serve them in truth.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know any of that, I guess, existed. I mean, I know in our country, in America right now, there's a lot of talk about white privilege, and it gets so many people upset. But when I sit and meditate on that, I say this all the time. I mean, the majority of what I have in my life came from just luck. I mean, I look at my other human brothers and sisters across this whole planet, and when I see them suffering, I go, well, the reason I'm not suffering is just sheer luck. It's just where I was born in the circumstances of my life. I got lucky. And so, I told my wife this the other day. I watch a lot of videos of law enforcement, the disproportionate negative treatment of Black Americans when they get pulled over, some of these traffic stop videos. And I tell my wife, the truth of the matter is that if I got pulled over in the same situation, that wouldn't happen to me, only because I was born as a white man. But the sad thing for me is that I have no control over that. I did not choose that. And that is so unfair in this world, that the simple luck of your circumstances determines how you're treated as a human being and how you value yourself, And it really makes me sad hearing stories like that, because I just go, man, there's so many other dimensions to a human being, and and people feel that their appearance, I don't know, I don't even know how to really articulate what I'm saying. It kind of breaks my heart, honestly, that exists, and knowing that's a lean towards lightness and whiteness means better somehow. I don't know. I never had those. I've never had those thoughts in my life, and I don't know why. Because I grew up with people, around people who maybe did have those thoughts, but I never felt like that. I just felt, God, we're just people. And I mean, isn't this what people Isn't this just the way we all are? We're all just different, and that's okay. Isn't that good that we're all different? Shouldn't we celebrate them and be more interested in that and fascinated by each other than to, I don't know, weigh one against the other and say this is bad and this is good? It's just sad. I don't know. It makes me a little sad to hear that exists over there.
It was really sad to watch unfold, because it was just sad to watch unfold. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
And wanting to help and show them their beauty. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was challenging.
And to be able for you to use just your presence alone, and that makes it interesting to me, because then you probably, something that here you would have been like, putting your makeup on, or what makeup choice you made
didn't really matter.
But there you're going, hey, how I'm presenting myself as a symbol, and it's also motivating to them. You're educating, helping build value and worth in people. Like I said, it really just changed the dynamic of relationship building with the kids. Yeah.
I had to be reflective every day.
Yeah.
I had to go home and be like, okay, what did I do? How did I talk to myself today? Because those kinds of things, whether or not we wanted to, they pour out.
Yeah.
They pour out. And so I had to wrestle with myself and my insecurities a lot in the beginning. And I didn't really know that's what I was doing.
And I'm happy. I know it. I'm helped.
I hate to pause the program, but I want to ask you something. Did you know that you can help me and my team at Parker Brand Creative Services grow the Find the Good News signal? For less than a fancy cup of coffee, you can become an Early Risers Club patron on our Patreon page. What's Patreon? Well, it's a way for creators to fund their projects by pooling support from those really passionate people that believe in what they're doing. Do you believe in what we're doing with Find the Good News? I hope you do. We believe that there's already enough negative news in the world, even right here at home, and that good people doing good works deserve a platform to speak from too. That's why we created Find the Good News, and we believe in that simple mission. Maybe you believe in it too. If you do believe in finding and sharing good news, then head over to our Patreon page right now or check out the link in the show description. For a commitment of $3.33 a month, you can join the Early Risers Club of Find the Good News Patreon supporters and get access to the B-Sides, a patrons-only podcast with the crew behind Find the Good News, Parker Brand Creative Services. Each time we level up, the Patreon rewards will get bigger. If you're tired of old news, bad news, and fake news, help support Find the Good News at patreon.com/findthegoodnews. That's patreon.com/findthegoodnews. Now, back to the episode.
I love you just as well.
So I got a question, and we've only barely touched on it a little bit, but so what has your spiritual life been like, and how has that changed in the context of your new situation? Grown? Has it changed in any have you experienced new things?
I didn't realize how faithless I could be.
Oh, interesting.
With change, when I would just lose myself.
In like grief or sorrow or
fear.
Oh, okay.
And so it gave me this first year has given me a really honest picture of where my faith was versus where I thought it was.
Oh, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that it's in those situations where you're faced with hard things that it's you find out what the metal it's made out of. I totally get that. I've had things happen. We all have things to whatever degree or another where you just go, or things that you think only happen to other people. Or maybe you told yourself that at one point in your life, and then it happens. And you go, oh, this is that thing that I said I can't even imagine. What you find out is, what you really are clinging to. Where's your real hope lie? Or is it just a bunch of words?
And it was all in myself. Like my faith was so much in myself.
What do you mean?
I was fully dependent on myself to provide, protect, to get through. And so when things like that happened and I couldn't because I wasn't supposed to, it just kind of gave my idolatry a face, that I knew it was me. You know, I knew that I'd put myself on that pedestal, even if it was unintentionally.
Yeah, right.
And she crumbled, you know, because she wasn't supposed to be there.
Oh, wow. I like that. So, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. That's interesting. The way you said that, idolize. There's that ego thing again, building up a little paper man.
Not even realizing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you feel like in that, so has that strengthened your...
Definitely. It has, because I'm finding myself now in a place where I can just say, I'm confident in whatever God's will may be, and I'm confident in his ability to help me through whether or not his will is mine, you know? And I just wasn't there before.
Yeah. Interesting. So what was that? Okay, so what was your... if I'm prying too much, tell me.
It's okay.
What was your spiritual life? I said that completely backwards. 2 words. Okay, let me say that again. What was your spiritual life like here in the States? Or maybe even not just your spiritual life, but your religious life too. If you went to church, what did that look like here? And now what does it look like over there? Because you said earlier that you go to church, and I was just curious like what the situation is with that.
Well, it was, I guess the word to describe it was a bit more commercial here.
Oh, okay.
You know, I went to church on Sundays and we sang, and, you know, then we went to lunch, you know. Yeah. I went to church on Sundays.
Yeah, sure. I get it. Yeah.
But there, it's like during the rainy season, I go to church and I'm walking about 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back. And if it rains, we have to move over into like a goat shed and get in the goat shed so we don't get wet. In church, we may or may not have electricity, so the microphones may or may not work when they're singing. It may be in Hausa, it may be in English, depends on you know which service I make it to in time. So, but my desire to be there, spiritually, my desire to have that community, on Sundays or for Bible studies and things like that is much more intense than it was here.
Really?
And I think because here it was more accessible. I knew I could jump in my car and go to church on Sunday. So if I didn't want to go, I didn't go.
Yeah.
I knew Bible study was going to be every Monday night, but if I didn't want to go, I just didn't go. But there, it's like, no, I really want to be there, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there because it fills me, and I'm able to worship God. And, you know, it just, I think intensity is the biggest difference. It's more,
intensity. Okay.
I'm much more intense about, and intentional about pursuing the things of the Lord. About having, even if it's like, if I'm supposed to have a Bible study with a couple of the girls and I'm just exhausted, I'm still going to go down to the cottages and say, okay, let's talk, let's reflect, let's pray, let's do something, even if I can't stay there for 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, right.
And so I wasn't doing that before. Not like I was a heathen before. Like,
no,
I love God, I love scripture, I love those things. But like I said, it was a bit more commercial, and I wasn't as intentional about having that genuine, authentic time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can relate to that. It kind of makes me think about what I shared earlier about the holy hours. You know, I think now, I thought this the other morning when I was reading it, using my breviary and going through it, and it's a complicated book. I mean, for some people, they get a breviary and they go, I don't even understand how this thing is. I don't know
what a breviary is.
Yeah, it's the Holy Hours book. So basically, it's like that. It's organized based on every single day of the year, and you basically repeat the cycle annually. But the way it's organized, you have to really flip through it and like, in the morning I'm going to read these Psalms, and then there's a prayer associated with that, and those might be on a certain page, but then it'll say, now because of the season you're in, you go to the front of the book, and the scripture readings that belong with it are here. You might read those same Psalms multiple times throughout the year. But depending on what time of year it is, they'll have a different scripture reading that a gospel reading, I would say. Or Old Testament reading that goes with it. You know, and it's so weird because the Psalms sort of get built into you after a while. but the readings will change.
Okay.
It's a little complicated. I mean, it can be daunting. And so I guess the reason I say all that is one morning I didn't feel like it. It sounds so fickle.
No, we really do it.
I was like, I just don't feel like it. I just want to just whatever. And just sit here and wake up.
Literally do nothing.
Do
nothing productive.
But I made myself. And that morning, as I was flipping through it and going, okay, this is the next page. And I was kind of half in and half out, to be honest. But it hit me. I was like, all the 1,000 years or so that it took and the work it took to organize all of this into these beautiful seasonal structure, and here I am going, I don't feel like it, but it's ancient. I don't know. I just kind of felt like I laughed at myself, honestly. I was like, God, how freaking soft I am. You know, I'm just, like you said, I'm just going to do it. Just going to do it, even though I don't feel like it, because it's an anchor point, you know, and just give some respect to all the work, the history that's just sitting in this little book that I take for granted.
Yes.
Or that I'm taking for granted. Even a Bible. I mean, just to have a Bible and go, there are people in the world who have to hide them, right?
Yes,
they have
definitely.
to sneak them in and hide them. And here I am going, I don't know if I'm going to read. I don't feel like reading scriptures. You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, yes. I know, yes. Yep. And I mean, those things were more common. That would happen for me more often. Not that it doesn't happen there. I'm not like... perfect there.
Right,
you know, I obviously still have days when I'm like, I don't feel like going to church, you know, but or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I can see the change clearly.
Yeah.
You know, like being willing to or eager to risk whatever just so I can walk to church with the kids and experience that time with the kids, or going down to the cottages or anything like that. I know I wasn't that insistent before.
Are there I'm assuming there's Christianity sounds like it's the main religion.
Muslim really is. The Muslim faith is much more prevalent
in the compound as well.
Oh no, the compound is Christian.
It's Christian. Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Even the surrounding village is primarily Christians. Like the church that I go to,
is it?
It says about 30 minutes away, but it's a Christian church, and there are other churches in that village. But the two religions that are most prevalent are Christianity and the Muslim faith.
Are they? Okay, I was curious about that. I wondered if there was a cultural religious element in the community. I just didn't know. I really don't have any kind of working framework to know.
It's okay. That's the bulk of it.
Yeah.
You know, we could go to the park and see people out on their mats doing their prayers during the day.
That's probably interesting, though, coming from this community, right?
It was. It took me a while to get used to it. I mean, I'm used to it now, but it did take me a while to get used to it.
Is there a good relationship between Christians and Muslims? I
haven't seen any tiffs or anything.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any problems. No.
Well, that's good.
Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't tension. You know, there may be. And, you know, I talk to people in the community who are Muslim all the time.
Yeah.
The market that I prefer is the Muslim market, you know? Yes. All of my...
Now, like why is that?
I don't know. I just do. It's
the goods, the wares, all of that. Okay,
I do. And the relationship building. Not that the Christian market is terrible, but I really do love building in relationships with people in the Muslim market. Yeah. And it's not like I'm going there every weekend and preaching the gospel at them. That's not it. They know I'm Christian. I know they're Muslim. If I go on Sunday, I'm talking to them about what we talked about in church. If I go after I read something or God showed me something, I will have those conversations with them, and they welcome it, you know? And so it's just really...
So that's beautiful.
It really is.
That's the way it really is. That ecumenical approach is... it fascinates me, and I find a lot of joy in that, especially the discovery of... when you talk to somebody that practices something different than you, and you find something in common, you go, oh, wow, so you're doing this, you're reading this scripture, you're practicing this way, but it's generating these really beautiful human qualities. Well, then, you take another faith that's doing something totally different and is generating the same qualities. I love that. It's just a wonderful thing. I wish we could all just do that.
It helps me to be confident in the truth, and to just say it boldly without reservation.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they're not like walking around wanting me to stop talking about it, but
Right.
It really just opens the door for really authentic relationships. And so I can be a picture of the gospel without saying a verbatim
I like that.
script or
The
anything.
picture
You know
of
what
the
I mean?
gospel. Let
They
them
see it
through
they
your
see
life.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and I pray for them. I pray for their salvation, and I pray for them to see that and desire it. And then I go back to the market the next day, and we have that relationship. And so it's been nice.
That's beautiful. I like what you said there. You get for them to see it. That's so important, because we can just say it all day long, and we can quote scripture all day long.
But if people don't see that, it bears no weight.
Yeah, and to see that it's transformative too. That to me is a high value. That one of my guests, she said, the way she put it, she was like, "You want people to look at you and go, hey, I want whatever they have. I want whatever's making their life that we're making them be that way. I want that. That's what you want. It's the kind of life you want to live. Not for your sake, so they can pat you on the back and tell you how good you are, but so people go, hey, this is affecting their life. This has made a change. I want some of that. Whatever that is. It's kind of a beautiful thing. So I know I'm probably got 1,000 more questions. I'm going to kind of lead us into the end here. What does a day in your life look like on a commonly?
Okay. That's the easy one.
Yeah.
I want to know how many people are really going to listen to me talk about this
on this show.
Yeah.
I'm going to push it out there. We got like 13,000 listeners.
Wow.
So all over the country too.
Really?
And in the world too. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Most of it's along the Gulf Coast, but we've got listeners
awesome.
and we've got some listeners in Africa. I'd have to look and see if there's any in Nigeria.
That's awesome.
But people do listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. I'm a mess.
Yeah, are you a mess?
I'm a mess.
Oh, come on.
Okay. So, a typical day. I wake up around 4:30. Pretty
early riser.
Yeah,
Me too.
I am.
That's what I get up to. Yeah.
I wake up around 4:30. I usually read my Bible or journal, or read something.
Yeah.
I try to write though. I try to get to work by 6:30. School doesn't open until the teachers have to come. My teachers have to be to work by 7:30.
Okay.
But I try to get there at 6:30 because the sun rises at 6:30 and I can see it from my office window.
Oh, how nice is that?
So I try to leave my house by like 6:20 or something. I live on the compound. It's not like a far walk or anything.
Yeah.
And so like I rush from my house to my office. I have a teapot in my office now, so I make tea, I bring my book, and I just watch the sunrise in my office. I pray for my teachers, I pray for the kids. I just have that quiet,
sacred time.
But I'm already at work, so I don't have to rush to get there, and so it changes the way my mornings go when I start them off that way, and then we go to school.
Wow. And then classes, how long? How long is the day? Normal.
The teachers come at 7:30. They leave at 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a lot like the American schedule, but it's because they have so many classes.
And this is Monday through Friday, or is it
Monday through Friday?
Okay. Yeah. And so weekends are like what?
Well, Friday they get out at 12 on Fridays.
Oh, they have
it's a half day every Friday.
Every Friday. And so, what's that time used like? That half day, like what's that? Is
well,
there
the kids in the village. Our resident children, they clean up, they play outside, they play soccer, basketball, whatever. They just have that time.
That's great to just have a good time.
Imagine getting a half day every Friday.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I'd like that as an adult. So your day, so you have a half day too then, yeah?
No, I'm
On Friday?
there.
So the teachers stay
I'm
all
there.
day? And
The teachers, they usually get out around 3.
okay.
Because we have in-service on Fridays.
Oh, okay. Every Friday. Okay. And so then what's a weekend like? I mean, so if you're not working, what's a weekend
I go to
like?
town. I love being in town. Like I said, I love going to the markets. I love finding different places to eat or buy fabric, things like that, because those things aren't really expensive, and it's a good way to build relationships.
Yeah.
Patronizing. So I try to find the little shops, not like the big. There are some pretty big businesses. Like there are some shops that you can tell they're doing really well. So I try to find more hole in the wall, and just kind of becoming a part of it. And so that's what I end up doing on my weekends.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You're kind of an explorer, a little bit of a wanderer. I am too.
Definitely.
That's a vacation for
and
me.
It's frustrating sometimes because I can't always do it because I'm a woman, and
really?
I'm by myself.
Is it unsafe a little bit?
Yeah, it can be. Like not being out at night, that's not a thing.
Really? Unless in groups even, or is it?
Sure, but even still.
Really?
Now,
why? I don't know why.
No,
so
it's
what's
fine.
the main reason?
For like robberies, kidnapping.
Hey, that's happened here too.
Yeah, I know. I've been hearing that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There are some cults in the area, and to me, cults are a lot like gangs here. So
cults.
They sacrifice people for the sake of their leadership.
Really? God, man.
That exists.
That's wild.
And that's what I said. It was like what?
Yeah, somebody just tells you, oh, there's a cult and they sacrifice people.
And what are you talking about? But
That's a
it
fear.
happened. It happens. It had happened a few times since I've been there. There was a murder in the market, and I'm like, well, what happened? It's just like, the cult did it for whatever reason.
That is wild. I mean, man.
And then that's just it. And it's never, not from what I can tell or from what I've heard from people that I talk to about it, it's not like they pinpoint certain people. It's just like whoever walks out of that building. You know what I mean?
Because it has nothing to do with the person. It's not personal. It's a part of
it's a sacrifice.
That is wild.
Very, very tribal.
Yeah. It sounds tribal. It sounds old too.
Yeah,
some old throat, some stuff that's died out in a lot of parts of the world, but that's
Not
just
there.
in certain places just hanging on.
And you get that, and then that weird mix of still modern. The modernity is still there, but then that's still there, and it's happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Is crime, managed well there? Or is it kind of just different?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not managed well.
Really?
No.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about it, so
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
You
can tell it just
it just seems like it happens and you just kind of pick up the pieces
and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Or people, they seek out their own retribution a lot? Is that kind of a thing there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, that's interesting. So how long is this journey going to be for you? Does it have a limit to it, or is this as long as you want to continue?
As long as I want to continue, from what I can tell. I love it.
Yeah.
I really do.
How often do you come home?
This is my first time coming home.
Oh, this is your first time?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks for taking some of that time to come do this.
Of course.
I was going to try my best to get you on the show, whatever it took. I didn't, Skype, whatever.
No.
Do you get to do that with your family, like Skype and video chats
we
and things
FaceTime.
Like that?
I can usually go to some hub or something in town.
Okay.
We have Wi-Fi in our compound, so
great.
I can use FaceTime to stay in contact with my family.
And we're like almost polar opposites as far as time goes, right?
Yes.
So your evening is our morning.
What time is it right now? It is 5:00 here. So it's about 11:15 there.
Wow. Because I know when we finally started getting to chat, I was like, okay, it was morning where I was at, night where you were at, or something was flip-flopped. I was like, okay.
It is flipped.
So we're going to have to do this. How are we going to do this? It was good that you were coming home, though.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I love it.
Yeah.
And me and my brother joked about it yesterday. I kept saying I'm back like I never left, but like it really feels like I never left.
Does it feel that way?
It's home. It feels like home. And so like I didn't skip a beat. It definitely doesn't feel like I haven't been here in a year. You know, like just driving around town, I had no problem finding the studio. Little things like that. I saw, like they fixed the bridge.
Yeah,
I saw
that's been an ongoing thing. Yeah,
I
the
saw
bridge.
on Facebook people were not happy,
complaining. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, like a while. Yeah.
But like things like that. I went to the mall today with my brother. I was like, man, I hadn't been to a mall. He was like, okay, well, let's go. And I was there for like 5 minutes, and I was like, yeah, it's the same. Let's leave.
You're done.
Well, like Walmart.
Yeah, I can imagine it's probably not stimulating.
No.
Yeah.
No.
How long are you back for?
I leave in January.
Oh, wow. So you got a pretty good haul here in a couple of weeks.
4th, I think. Yeah, a few weeks.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm coming back in March to have more time to do things like this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm meeting with you, and I'm going to see somebody else tomorrow for something similar to this. But I had a few other people contact me, and I had to say no, because I really want to spend time with my family.
Yeah, well, I'm honored that you took this time. I was hoping, because you have come up a few times. I had Justin and Emily Martindale on the show, and
those are my friends.
They brought you up. Yeah, so it's been a few different folks, and I was like, maybe I can work it out.
Yeah, no, of course, I was excited.
I didn't even know if you were going to remember. That video.
Once you told me about it, it made because I remembered you asking those questions.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch it, it's still on the internet. You're in those key moments there. You said
now
something.
I have to watch it that way.
Yeah, that was you. I never got to talk to you again, but I mean, you were the nodes, okay, she said this, I'm going to build everything else around what she said. Okay.
Hi.
And then you're the beginning and the end of the whole thing.
I am.
Yeah, you probably didn't know that.
No.
That's interesting.
That's awesome.
You said something way back at the beginning of the conversation about being a mother to that child, and how she said, Sarah, is that her name? Sarah's, and Shakiyla, right? So being a mother in that regard. And then I remember in that video talking to one of the students, and I can't remember his name, but he made a comment about that, about being a teacher, and about how there's a lot of kids who don't have that parent at home, or they don't have a support system at home. He said, and a good teacher.
Trey. It was Trayvon.
Trey, yeah.
Did you see him? Do you know who Lizzo is?
Yeah.
Lizzo?
Yeah.
Their band is in her music video.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh! I'm
He's the drum major for Southern University.
You've got to be kidding me.
And they're in her music video. No, but that's who you're talking about. It was Trayvon.
He said
he was
that?
the student of the year.
Okay.
He and I did the video together.
Yeah, that's right. Y'all were probably, I think I filmed y'all in the same.
Yeah, we went in the library.
Yeah, that's right. Well, okay. Well, then you got to hear what he said that day. Yeah. He talked about that, and it was he also was one of those individuals that just like. You go, man, he's got something. He's got something special about him. There's a light inside. And his words were just sticky. And I remember him talking about that, about that value. And again, I'm emotional or empathic or whatever. And I'll just, my heart, when it opens, it's just, I can feel it. I have to hide that when I'm filming, because I don't want to get the person upset, because some people are sympathetic criers. You know? And so I'm going, oh gosh, don't cry, but he's getting in my heart now, man. Yeah. But because I've had teachers like that, and I've been blessed with this particular show to have talked to several of the teachers that have affected my life.
That's awesome.
And there's one teacher, I bring him up sometimes. He was murdered when I was in high school, and he affected my life in a big way. And I never really got to tell him, because I remember I've told this story before, but I guess I've always been a people watcher, and I never really had a relationship with him, but it was just something about the way he managed himself in the class, and the way he dealt with conflict, especially troubled kids in the class that would disrupt it. The way he had power, but it was like graceful and peaceful at the same time. And I was like, his presence was so, I never thought of him as aggressive, but somehow he used this like almost robust love and peace to somehow get these kids in alignment. And I don't know. I took that away from his class. He was my algebra teacher, but that was my takeaway. It wasn't the algebra.
It was that. Mm-hmm.
And so I drew a picture of Jesus for him, and the last day of school, I went in his classroom and he was doing something, and I think he was a little like, why are you bringing me this? Because he didn't know. And the scripture I put on there was, what I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light, because it captured the way I felt about him. Like, you don't really know how I feel in the darkness about you, but I want to tell you in the daylight. And so I gave him that, and then the next year he was murdered while he was running one night. A guy shot him, and I think about the value of what you said about the way you have to manage yourself and handle yourself, because you're not just teaching them in the classroom, you're teaching them by your presence. It just reminded me of him, because he didn't know. He was teaching me math, but he was teaching me by his presence. And I think of him often. That value of what he taught in that presence. Yes. Just the way he was, not necessarily anything he said. Yep. Or, so anyway, that's of high value, I guess. Yeah. That's awesome. And seeing that in you, and hearing you share those things.
Thank you.
And I'm happy. I know it.
This episode's Fishing for Goodies Fishbowl sponsor is Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center in Sulphur, Louisiana. I don't know what you look for when you travel, but one of the things I look for when I'm putting together my itinerary is a unique museum or gallery in the city I'm traveling to. I do this almost every time I go to a new city, but if I'm being honest, I'm guilty of not always doing that very thing right here at home in Sulphur, Louisiana. That's really a shame, because we have one of the most interesting, historically relevant, and culturally rich corners in any city in the country about 2 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking about the Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center. Have you ever really thought about why our city is named Sulphur? They've got a permanent exhibit on the history of the sulfur industry that answers that simple question and more. You really get a full scope of just how important the sulfur mining industry was to the development of Southwest Louisiana and the impact it had on the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world. On the same property, right next door to the museum, is the Henning Cultural Center, presenting some of the most interesting, modern, and culturally relevant local art shows I've ever seen. My dear friend Tom Trahan and the Brimstone Historical Society have really worked hard to give us this treasure, and it's a multifaceted jewel that I plan to take advantage of more often. You don't have to wonder what their hours are, or how to get there, or what shows are coming up. Just go to brimstonemuseum.org like I did, and subscribe to their mailing list right there on the homepage. That's brimstonemuseum.org. Tom will make sure you start getting the announcements for each and every new show at the gallery. But you don't have to wait for the mail to arrive to enjoy this historical local treasure. You don't have to be guilty, like me, of overlooking a local wonder that conveniently sits next to the Grove, one of the most beautiful walking parks in Southwest Louisiana. Drop in and say hi to Tom for me. Tour the museum and center, and make sure to tell Tom that you heard about Brimstone Museum on Find the Good News. Now, let's take that dive in the fishbowl. Well, this is the part of the show that you had mentioned. You're looking at it. We call this part of the show Fishing for Goodies.
Okay.
And so everybody who listens knows about the fishbowl. So the fishbowl is this part where I give up my questions, and they're coming out of here now. Okay. So what each guest has done is draws 3 things, just dig in there deep and get 3 either cards or slips of paper. Okay. And then it's going to ask you questions, and we'll talk about them. Okay. Get in there.
One at a time?
One at a time, or you can draw them all 3 if you want.
No, I want to do one at a time. Oh, y'all can hear it?
Oh, yeah. You can hear a little bit of that shuffling.
And dramatics. Oh my goodness, that's so random.
Well, gosh, can't wait to hear it.
It says, describe a typical day from your high school experience.
Oh, well, that's kind of relevant because we're in education. Yeah, so what was it like for you? I mean, you became a teacher, but
Yeah.
I mean, so what was like school like for you?
Yeah, I went to Sulphur High.
I didn't know that.
I did. I graduated 2010.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I went to Sulphur High too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I graduated in 1992.
There you
so,
go.
Yeah.
A typical day from your high school experience. I liked school. I was a good kid. You know, I mean, it wasn't really anything special. I loved most of my teachers. So though you could always see me in the hallway with a couple of my friends, just kind of talking with the teachers, clowning, enjoying. You know,
Yeah.
I enjoyed school, and I've always liked to learn. You know, I did the CNA program,
Okay.
so we would go to the nursing home in the afternoons toward the end of my senior year.
Nice.
I loved that. That really sticks out to me, and just having really good friendships.
Yeah.
I really liked high school.
Did you
I
have any teachers at Sulphur or throughout your life that were affected?
Definitely Miss Benoit, Lori Benoit.
Really? Mm-hmm. What did she teach?
She taught English.
English, yeah.
English. I don't even remember grade. I think she taught me in 10th grade, but I always ended up in her classroom.
Really?
She was just really maternal.
Yeah.
And honest and just true.
Beyond just teaching you
Yes,
English.
definitely. She saw us. She saw us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, like you were saying earlier on, I felt seen by her. So I felt safe with her. And so she was able to mold and encourage and teach and edify. And I received it,
Yeah.
you know, because I felt that freedom in her.
Interesting. Yeah. There's something special about having a teacher like that
really.
just goes across just beyond the textbook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
And you
interesting.
remember them.
You do remember them. Oh, they
It's
live
great.
forever in your heart.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Okay, that's one.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. I love Miss Benoit. Oh, I want slip of paper. Have you ever let someone win an argument even if you knew you were right? If so, who?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Goodness. Have you ever let someone win an argument even though you knew you were right? If so, who?
It's interesting because, I mean,
That takes a lot of humility.
it does. I've done it, though.
You have?
Yeah, maybe not an argument, but just a situation I've probably just went, you know what?
It's not even worth it.
Is this worth the conflict?
I don't think I have. I told you I was spicy.
You said that.
I cannot think of a time I have.
What's something that you've gotten an argument about where you were like, no, I'm passionate about this, and I'm telling you that you're wrong? Is there anything like that for you? Like a pet peeve where it's like, oh, nope, I got to correct you on this. Is there something like that? Because, I mean, some people have things like that. They're like, I can deal with a lot, but like this, I'm correcting if I hear somebody say something.
I think in school,
Really?
when people are like, no, the classroom is supposed to be formal and they should be learning and all of that, you know, relationships, talking that, you know, because there are some old school teachers who are just like, I'm not doing that. I come in to teach the lesson, you listen to the lesson, they copy the notes, and that's just it. Absolutely not. So I guess things like that I'll never fold.
Yeah, you're like, nah, ain't the way I'm doing
That's
it.
That's not it.
Yeah, I got some stuff like that. I don't know what, but I mean,
What?
yeah,
I'm ridiculous.
that's a good one. I like that. I like that you just. But hey, you're being honest.
Yeah, I am
mean,
being
you know,
honest.
I mean, you
I
could have
can't
made
think of a time I've done that.
I like that.
Oh, what's this one? This one feels different. No, I don't want that one. I didn't see it, y'all. I was just talking.
Oh, these are would you rather cards.
Okay, would you rather be a doctor or be a teacher? Definitely
What
a
in
teacher.
the world, man? That's crazy.
That
You
was
actually
easy.
to draw relevant questions. Sometimes that happens to people.
Really?
Yeah, and I go,
What?
of all the things in there, it's actually like pinpointing.
Oh, it
your,
asks why. Okay, so that's my would you rather. Would you rather be a doctor or a teacher? Why? I would rather be a teacher because in both capacities, healing is an option. And a doctor can do it physically but a teacher can do it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I think that that's where I would be more effective.
Yeah.
Is being able to interact with the people that I encounter. You know, doctors, of course they do, you know, to some capacity. Surgeons don't. You become a body on the bed, essentially. And so they fall in love with the science of it.
Sure.
They fall in love with the concepts. But I fall in love with the person, and I'll be able to express that being a teacher.
What's weird about that card is you've already made this decision in your life to some degree, because being a vet.
Oh my goodness! Yes, I didn't even think about that. I was like,
well, I mean, a vet is an animal doctor, so I mean, you've already actually. That's a weirdest thing.
Oh, I gotta take a picture of this one.
Isn't that something?
That's crazy.
I know. I was going, wow, she actually already made this choice. She pulled a card that has
my life on it.
Your big, like a big hinge. I mean, that was a big, I'm gonna make this big decision.
That's awesome.
That's wild.
That was fun.
Yeah, well, there is one more question. It's not in the fishbowl, though.
Okay.
That yellow mug right there.
Okay.
That belongs to you now, since you've been on the show.
The stickers that I've been playing.
On the back of that mug, there's one more question.
Did anything good happen today? Did anything good happen? Yes.
Yes.
This was
and
good? I'm not just being cheesy.
Good. No, okay,
you know,
good.
But being able to, even though we're, you know, other people hear this, but it's just you and I in this room, and being able to verbally communicate those types of feelings I feel in public settings. I haven't done that in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And having somebody who could empathize, not necessarily sympathize with how challenging that is, was really encouraging, knowing that for the rest of the time that I'll be here in the States, that's what's going to happen in some capacity. You know, you know, even with my family, my whole family's coming for Christmas.
Oh, and you're going to get asked all kinds of,
And, you know, going to see my students sometime this week, having friends come over, but they come in a slew. You know, it's very few, and it's just a couple at a time. And so that was just encouraging to reflect on the fact that it's okay for me to need to take a few seconds back and regroup.
I get that.
That was good.
You said that earlier about intention, about being intentional. And that's one thing that I've tried to capture with this, and I hope it's effective. It feels like it is that, but it's to intentionally sit down and have an intimate talk with somebody versus just, hey, we're going to talk and just kind of get through it. It's like, let's just let this go where it would go if we were just being intimate, you know, and having an intimate talk and trying to get to know somebody. And, you know, you don't know what you're going to ask. You just don't know what's going to pop into your brain, and let's just go there.
Because that wasn't the plan. That's not what we meant to talk about. No, but that was a good thing. It was beautiful. It was encouraging. It was helpful for this time that I'm here, and from when I go back to Nigeria, because it'll happen again with all of the children wanting to know and asking questions and wanting to see pictures. It gets really overbearing. But you know, being reminded that it's okay to just slip out and then slip back in when you can.
I get that. Well, I thank you, I really do, for making the time, taking the time to do this.
I loved it. This is awesome.
I was hoping. Well, for me, it's a treat, because, you know, I don't always, there's people that you meet in your life and you go, boy, I remember that. And that might be the whole of it. That's all you ever get, is just to remember that. And to be able to have had that experience filming that, and for it to have been sticky enough, and then all these years later to get to sit and actually
that's awesome.
Talk to you.
That's awesome.
That's a treasure for me.
Oh, I'm glad.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Shakiyla Solomon. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. If you'd like to help me make Find the Good News even better, consider becoming an early riser patron at patreon.com/findthegoodnews. Sharing and reviews help a lot as well. I sincerely thank you for pressing play.